One of the most common complaints that patients who enter into my office tell me about, aside from the typical musculoskeletal problems, is stress. And so in this first of a two-part series, we're going to talk a little bit about stress, what stress is, and some of the categories of stress. So I'd like to start off with a few definitions. The first definition of stress is that stress is the rate of wear and tear on a body as a result of anxiety, worry, or exhaustion from a difficult or a challenging situation. The part of this definition that I'd like to concentrate on is the first part, where it says that stress is the rate of wear and tear on the body. So no matter what type of stress we are experiencing, it can wear and tear at the body. Now sometimes stress is actually a good thing. We can take a weightlifter for an example. The weightlifter stresses his muscles to eventually get the muscles to build back up to larger muscles. We also stress our brains, doing puzzles, reading, and this strengthens our brains to keep our brains strong. But other types of stresses can actually be a negative to us and can wear and tear at our bodies. The next definition that I'd like to talk about is stress is how we feel when life's demands exceed our ability or our perceived abilities to meet those demands. And so with this definition, we talk about our feelings and how we feel about these. Oftentimes, when we look at stressful situations, we feel overwhelmed with things when in reality, these things really aren't that bad. And the part of this definition that says that it exceeds our ability or our perceived ability to meet those demands is really important, because a lot of times what we perceive isn't actually the reality. So we have to train ourselves to look at situations and not always look on the bad part of things, but to try and stay optimistic and realize that all these situations may not be quite as bad as they seem. So let's now look at the categories of stress. There's many different types of categories, but I believe that most stressors can be placed into three different categories. Those categories are chemical stresses or toxins, emotional stresses or our thoughts, physical stresses, or trauma. So let's go through each of these different types of stressors and give you some examples of those. Now you can probably think of a lot more in your lives, but I'll give you some ideas. Let's look at chemical first. Some of the chemical stressors in our lives could be things that we're putting into our body. The foods that we eat may contain food additives or preservatives or antibiotics. Maybe also some of the medications that we're giving our bodies can be a stress. We can look at things like herbicides or pesticides, different things that are within our environments, whether it's in our homes or our workplaces. Other things could be toxins such as heavy metals, which we may be getting in through the foods we eat or through the water that we drink. Other types of chemical stresses are pollutants, things that we are inhaling or things that are contacting our skin. Certainly, if we're around areas with a lot of automobiles, we're breathing in those automobile fumes. Or maybe you work in an environment where there's chemicals in that environment. And so all of these types of chemical stressors enter into our body and have to be eliminated through our detoxification systems, primarily our lungs, our livers, our kidneys, and our colon. If these become overwhelmed, then these chemical stressors begin to be stored throughout the body and can create some immense physical effects on our bodies. We're going to talk about how we can deal with these chemical stressors in the next series. The next type of stress that I'd like to discuss with you are the emotional stressors, or the thoughts. So let's talk about some of these. These are probably some of the more common ones that people think of when they think of stress. Finances are a big one. Whether we're going to be able to pay the bills at the end of the month, or whether there's a check that we're expecting is going to make it in on time. Other emotional stressors are work. What about an over-demanding boss? Whether we have deadlines that we have to meet. Possibly coworkers creating some emotional stressors on us. Other examples could be children. Raising children certainly can be emotionally stressing on us. Maybe dealing with elderly parents or the death of a loved one. Divorces, relationships, whether it's with a wife or a significant other. All of these can create emotional stressors on our body. The third and last type of stress that I'd like to categorize for you is the physical stresses or the traumas. The most common of these are injuries or accidents. Could be something as simple as a slip or a fall, or it could be something more serious like an automobile accident. All of these are going to have effects on our body, including the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, and the joints. Creating stress on these can wear these away and create some eventual health issues on down the road, if not immediately. Other types of physical stressors could be repetitive stress injuries, sitting in a position at work that's affecting your back, your neck, or even your hands. Carpal tunnel syndrome is a good example of this. Other types of repetitive stress could be things like tennis elbow. Using the tennis racket in the wrong way or overutilization of it can create stress on the elbow and can create tendinitis in the elbow, which is called tennis elbow. Other types of these physical stresses could be tension headaches. Sitting in a position where the neck is forward for too long can create strain on the muscles and can irritate those muscles, decreasing blood flow to the brain and actually create headaches. Other types of physical stressors may be overdoing it with yard work or housework. Even things that are typically good for us, like exercise, can become overabuse of physical stressors if we're doing them the wrong way or overdoing the exercises. So all of these things fall into the category of physical stressors. In our next series, we're going to go through each of these types of stressors, the chemicals or the toxins, the emotions or the thoughts, and the physical or the trauma. And we're going to talk about how we can best deal with these to help to eliminate their effects on our bodies and to help our bodies to become stronger to deal with each of these types of toxins. So until then, thank you very much for having me here today, and have a stress-free day.